enough in terms of sensitizing Nigerians?
Okay, you know, incidentally, when I was president of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, I actually listed 32 focus groups that the institute, not just me, needed to visit to explain what planning is, urban planning. Because the truth about development is that if you do not plan before you develop, it can only end in chaos. And that's what has happened in Nigeria for most of the time. Now, I said that one of my regrets is that the National Orientation Agency was one of those focus groups that I wrote, but I was unable to visit because they will play a major role in getting Nigerians a mindset. But you know, that assignment is too large for that organization. I don't know what their budget is, but I can assure you that they do not have the wherewithal to be able to do it. You must look at Nigeria in terms of over 250 ethnic groups, how you need to reach people. Because when you want to reorient people, set people's mindset, give them a new mindset, you need to speak to them in their language, not in English. People need to understand. I've been there before. When I was commissioner in Lagos State, I ran stakeholders fora where we meet different stakeholders. And when I got there, I spoke in the Yoruba language they will understand. And it endeared me to them. And there were times that I would need to go on another side. They say, Commissioner, have you finished? Because they enjoyed it. Now, our people are not as difficult as we think. In fact, many people want to do right, but they are waiting for who will lead them. And once they see a good example, they want to follow. So agencies of like National Orientation Agency need to be empowered, empowered in terms of human resources. They need as many people as possible who know what we are talking about, because it's not just appointment. The people must know what they are talking about, and to get people to know what they are talking about, it's just about training. If we want people to serve in a particular office, then train them. In some countries, you know, when you can trace somebody's trajectory, and you say, this guy is being prepared for governance. So somebody begins in America, he goes to university there, he begins to go to Harvard Business School. I think he's being prepared. So I think we should have things like that. So the National Orientation Agency has a lot to do in changing our mindset. I also think that our traditional rulership system has a lot to do, because those are our traditional leaders, and a lot of people still respect them. So if we want to change how some things work, we really have to go down to the grassroots to be able to talk to them. Those leaders can help us approach the community and speak with them, and then you have more cooperation from the people.
Exactly. Now, we're talking about a lot to be done in terms of prioritizing the sensitization of Nigerians, so long as we want a better way forward for the whole country. You are a former commissioner in Lagos State. I believe Lagos State, if not the first, is one of the most populated states of the Federation, if we're talking about that. How can we achieve a sound town planning that people can be able to coexist without having problem? Because when you look at the Plateau State, we seem to be having problem between herders and farmers, and it could be one of the problems of town planning.
Okay, this will take me a little bit of time. You are not in a hurry.
No, we are not.
Okay.
I believe.
All over the world, for development to happen, there's a sequence between planning and development. You plan, and then you develop according to the plan.
Yes.
So it's like the sequence between thinking and speaking.
Yes.
And you will understand that because you're a media person. You think first before you speak. You cannot speak and then come back to start thinking of what you spoke about.
Exactly.
One of the holy books says that, do you see a man who speaks before he thinks? Says there is more hope for a fool than for him.
Okay.
So if you stretch that and come back to planning and development, I will ask the same question. Do you see a man? Do you see a nation? Do you see a state that develops without planning or develops before it plans? There's more hope for a fool than for that nation. So we've been living our lives carelessly, and it can only result in chaos. Now, Lagos State, compared to other states, has more physical plans, physical development plans. But then I must say that Lagos State itself started late.
Okay.
Because apart from minor schemes that were prepared during the colonial era, and then a few organizations like the LEDB came and did some schemes, there was actually no master plan for Lagos itself until 1980, when the first civilian governor, it was an exercise that started before him, but he was the one that had the privilege to sign the Lagos Metropolitan Master Plan and the Lagos State Regional Plan. The regional plan is a document prescribing how the state will develop. What do plans do? Plans help us to achieve a balance so that no area is over congested, no activity is over concentrated in one place or the other. So if we don't have plans, it means we're expecting anything to happen. And like the usual balance, if you fail to plan, then you have planned to fail. So a lot of times we have failed cities, we have failed settlements. Anytime you are in congestion for more than 30 minutes and there's no accident, know that there's problem. It's a planning issue, and unfortunately, a lot of people in Nigeria, including those in authority, do not know what planning is about. And until they know what planning is about, we will not do it right.
All right. I believe I'm going to take you on that so that they can get such wisdom from you. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, the conversation kicks on. Continue.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, viewers. Do stay with us. When we come back, the conversation will continue.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts. On Facebook, Housing TV Africa. On Twitter, Housing TV Africa. Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Well, viewers, thank you so much for still being with us, and for those joining us, this is Inside the Real Estate Programs, a program where we discuss on most of the topical issues as relate whether to real estate or security, as well as our well-being. We've been on with Tony Ayinde, who is a former president, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. Thank you so much, sir, for still being with us. You were giving us, before we went on a break, giving us one of the most calculative, examples of how planning should be, so long as we want a better country. Could you shed more light on that?
Okay, so, and this is very important. You know, as a nation, the only resource we have, or the major resource we have, is our land.
Exactly.
Whatever we want to do, when the president announces his budget, he's going to do this and that, state governors are announcing, everything takes place on land. Now, in 1971, as a Form 1 student, my social studies tutor taught me that Nigeria was 56 million then, and that territory, Nigeria, had 56 million people. By 2021, it was 50 years after I was in Form 1. The population then, by projection, had exceeded 200 million. For the same Nigeria, minus Bakassi, minus some parts of Lake Chad. So, by just simple analogy, is it possible for a place that 56 million people occupied without any stress? Is it possible for 200 plus million people to occupy without any stress? Of course, we'll be deceiving ourselves. It's like having a bone. Let's imagine that this mug was a bone, and you tossed it before a dog. The dog will be happy, it will wag its tail, because it's the only one to that dog. If you put this bone between two dogs, no matter how friendly they have been, they will bark at each other. And they may start eating from one end each, but before they get to the middle, there will be a fight. But the same bone, toss it in the middle of 50 dogs. What is likely to happen is that they will leave the bone safe, but they will fight themselves to finish. So now look at what is happening in Nigeria. The land that was available to us when we were 56 million people, the herdsman could take his cattle anywhere, and he wouldn't be passing through anybody's farm. But now, over time, this land is needed for housing, this land is needed for agriculture, this land is needed for commerce, it's needed for industries, the herders need it, the farmers need it, and so on. So, as cities began to develop, as urbanization began to take place, lands were being encroached, extensions were being made. Up to now, you find states where their governors say that they have a 10-kilometer capital territory. So many of them don't understand what they're talking about, because that already engulfed a lot of local governments. And they say it's capital development territory. By the time they are doing that, they are encroaching on land that belonged or that were managed by communities and so on. So as our land resources reduce, we have increased our conflicts. Communities that had been friendly for over decades, over centuries, have now begun to fight. And they are not fighting because somebody took another person's wife. They are fighting just for boundary. And that's what is going to happen if we do not plan. So I ask, how do you manage a resource that is insufficient?
That's a very good question.
How do you manage it? If you discover that, if somebody gives me rice in this saucer and says it's mine alone, I know what to do with it. If he says I have to share it with you, we plan it. Okay, you take half, I take half. If it's 10 of us, we have to plan it. If we don't, and we just assume that anybody can take what he wants, we are definitely going to fight. So the only option we have to manage the resources, the land resource that we have, is to manage. Here, the land of Nigeria, amongst the over 220 million people, do we think everybody will have up to a plot? It is unlikely. So what they do in other countries, the government being interested in how cities are built, is that they allocate land in parcels for housing to developers, to corporations, to councils, to companies. So when they have such land, they develop houses en masse after conducting studies. So they have conducted studies. They know the percentage that should be studio apartments. They know the percentage that should be 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. They know those that should be detached. But they are doing it en masse. And what individuals like you or me will do is to look at which part of the city we want, and which one can we afford. And then there's a mortgage system which we can lean on to help us acquire those apartments on installment basis. But what do we do in Nigeria? Instead of allocating land in parcels to companies, to corporations, large corporations that will build en masse, what we do is allocate land to individuals. Allocating land to individuals strengthens informality. It strengthens informal housing. And that's how our governance has been all through. You look at, we run an informal system. Our transportation is informal. That's why you have so many kekes on the road, because we don't have an efficient public transportation system. Electricity is more informal, because there are a lot of people providing light for themselves with generator, with solar system. Our water, in many cases, except for a few places like Abuja, even in Lagos, you still have in some government residential areas, you still have trucks taking water, you know, wheelbarrows, using it to get water. So it's informal. Anytime you have informality, there are too many players and too few regulators. Therefore, you cannot but complain that somebody drove anyhow, because ordinarily he's supposed to be a passenger in an organized system. But because the system is not organized, he too has a vehicle that is part of the thing. So that's what is affecting the growth and development of our cities. And until we come back and do this thorough planning, we'll not be able to get a smooth.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, that's wonderful. You have touched a lot of things, and I believe even our audience would like us to do a follow-up on that. But we seem to have a lot of things to talk about. For now, let us go to this. Nigeria, even before we reach to this moment where the high cost of living has been skyrocketed to an extent where 3 square meals is a problem for an average Nigerian, and we're also having a lot of Nigerians going homeless. So issue of housing affordability is also critical, as much as how we'll talk about what to eat and what policies should be made. In your own take, in order to bring an end to this high cost of living and also provide housing affordability, what is the way forward?
You ask a tough question, and I hope that many people who go into governance understand that it's a tough question. Many times we think that governance is easy. Governance is by no means easy. It's a science. It's an art that people should actually go and train for. So I can't sit down here and give you answers. But one of the things that is necessary for good governance is that those in offices must first understand that they are the servants of the people. You know. So if you have a servant spirit, you can't hope to take more than the other person. I mean, I recall when I was commissioner, I would usually ask the staff, I would say, what do they call us? They say, we are civil servants. I say, can a servant be superior to his master? They'll say no. So someone can't come to the ministry and you look at him from top to bottom. What do you want? It should be, how may I serve you?
Exactly.
Because the man is paying his tax. And because of that tax, you are getting paid. So you are there to give a service. And your work is not done until you have given that service. And I used to say that if as commissioner I was not ready to give service, I should go back home. So people must first realize it starts with humility. First recognizing that. Let's imagine I was made anything in Nigeria today. The first thing that will occur to me is that of 220 plus million people, this is a privilege. So, and many times we cannot distinguish. Many people can't distinguish between privileges and rights. So when you put them in a place of privilege, they turn it into a right. So the first thing that should happen is that those in government should understand that this is a privilege.
All right.
So, and this privilege is given to me to come and serve. Any good person, if he's given an assignment, wants to give himself some KPIs. These are the key performance indices. These are the things I hope to achieve. By so time, I should be able to. I did that as a commissioner. I listed the things I wanted to do. I did that as president of my institute. And there is need for preparedness. Maybe because I went to leadership school. Yes. I studied leadership. Exactly. So by the time I was becoming president of my institute, before I did that, I visited 7 past presidents of other professional bodies. I wanted to. So who is becoming a governor that is not asking his predecessors, how did you run this state? So that I will not fall into the same pit like you did. You know, so there is need for a lot of knowledge acquisition. And the application of that knowledge is what is called wisdom. So people coming into office must apply wisdom, and they must be humble, willing to get information from those who have served before, so that they will learn from their errors. You know there are 2 ways you learn. You learn how to and how not to.
How not to. Exactly.
so those are things that are required.
Yes, exactly. I believe you have said something which is quite right. It's just like what they said, a smart one is one who learns from the wrong of others, which is very important. Now, talking about, out of all of what you have said so far, you re-emphasized on leadership training. Now, we seem to have our policies. Some Nigerians are complaining that most of these policies that governments are bringing on are not people-oriented policies. First of all, what do you think of that? Could this assertion be right?
Okay. It could be in certain cases, and in some cases it might be wrong.
I mean, considering what is
happening.
Yes.
What I know is that when you talk of policies, for them to be relevant, they have to be evidence-based. They have to involve engagement. So they have to be tested. So usually, how do policies evolve? You must first identify a problem. So when you identify that problem, you begin to analyze it and study. Just this week, I was in a training program, and I was actually asked to talk on policy. So I was talking of policy evolution. So it starts with a problem. You identify a problem. And when you identify that problem, you study it and analyze it. And then you bring up alternative solutions. You test. And then you choose one. That one that you choose, you run it by stakeholders to see whether it's right. When you see that it is right, then you begin to operate it. But part of the challenges we have is that we think that policies should be static. We think that laws should be static. So when we make a law today, we won't visit it for another 100 years. If, for example, I was reading in social media about 3 weeks ago of a director general who had embezzled 23.3 billion naira of pension funds of his agency. Now, he pleaded guilty, 23.3 billion naira. He pleaded guilty, and then the judge sentenced him to 2 years imprisonment with an option of 250,000 naira fine. And the property of 325 million naira was recovered. Now, the property of 325 million is not even up to 0.5 billion. And then he's going to pay
the
fine of 250,000. All you will just ask them to do is bring POS and let me put my card immediately. So he goes home still with his 22 billion naira plus. But if you ask the judge will tell you that that's what the law says. When was that law enacted?
Yes.
When that law was enacted, nobody was stealing thousands. Nobody.
Yes, exactly.
Nobody was stealing millions.
Exactly.
But now people steal billions. So what should have happened over time is for our lawmakers to review our laws, to review policies.
Exactly.
So that I haven't seen. I see more of oversight, which I think maybe maybe it's of more interest to them. But I think that our policies need to change. So when people say that some policies are not reflecting the needs of the people, it's probably because they were not tested, they were not tried. Because like I said, in the process, there's need to study the problem and run what you think is the solution, run it through other people, and then you can begin to follow it. And then the fact that you have implemented it now does not mean that you should not review, because that's part of the system. As you are running it, you want to check, is it succeeding? So if it's not succeeding, go back. Go back again. You still have a problem.
Okay, until you get it right. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with this conversation. Our viewers, still be with us as we come back from this short break.
Thank you, AIHS, for the opportunity of this exhibition. It was a nice experience. I would like to make it again.
Thank you, AIHS. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, AIHS.
Thank you, AIHS.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Well, viewers, thank you so much for still being with us. Well, before we went on break, you were talking about the need for us to get it right in terms of how we plan and how we do a lot of things. Now, we seem to have a fresh appointment by Mr. President when it comes to some of the key sectors in terms of housing affordability and all of that. And one of these sectors is federal mortgage listing, and we also have Federal Housing Authority. How do you see these new appointees that are coming in? How do you see them making an impact? Because for a lot of experts we seem to have, they've seen that the system, the mortgage system we are using is not working.
Okay, I want to believe that Mr. President means well for Nigeria, and for me, I believe that until he gets it right, he can change people over and over again, because he's looking for a target. So if he has changed people right now, I believe that it's because the new people are people who are expected to have knowledge, they're supposed to have expertise in what they have been appointed to do. So I would say that I believe that they are not people who want to do trial and error. You know, so that's my expectation. It's too early to judge them. I think it's just for us to wait and let's sound them a note of warning that if they are not performing, I'm sure that the president, you know, the president stayed quite a long time in US, so he knows how to hire and fire.
Exactly.
So if they don't do well, we expect them to be fired. People should take governance with seriousness. So I believe that there should be some improvement from those people.
All right. Now, to the leaders, either in state levels, either in federal level, president, governors, and all of that, we seem to have this orientation or the notion of idea coming from our leaders that people need to suffer before changes can be made. I mean, with the policies when you bring in, take about removal of fuel subsidy. I mean, we're talking about saying it is high time we stop paying subsidy. But then, have you bring anything forward that can actually help people? You do not bring it. And then you see president coming out and saying, I know you are suffering. I wish there were better alternatives. Do you agree with the statement coming from a president?
Yeah, you know, I said earlier that governance is tough. As a Yoruba man, culturally, my tribe prepares me for adversity.
All right.
in those days when they have tribal marks, the Yorubas will say, and people used to think that tribal marks are things of beauty. So that when you have a tribal mark, I mean, you are beautified. And then they will say it's in pains and aches that the tribal mark is put. But when the thing is healed, then you now begin to be proud and be doing yanga all about. So culturally, we are prepared to know that you, or sometimes they say that the charm that you do not spend to get, you often ignore it because you didn't spend. So the truth is that we also need to know that there is labor before there is reward. So some of these things, like I said, came before this government.
Exactly.
Now, you couldn't have had something being broken down over the years. And then in one fell swoop, you just get it done. Those in construction know that it's more difficult to renovate a house. That is, you are trying to rehabilitate the house. It's more difficult to do than to start a fresh construction. So, and Mr. President can't do fresh construction. So what he's trying to do is rehabilitation. It's going to be stressful. It's going to involve a lot of sacrifice. But I can tell you that if we don't lose focus, because this is about focus. In governance, there are a lot of digressions. But if we don't lose focus, things are going to get better.
But it seems one of the things we need to also look at is the issue of this Goga settlement. I mean, we're talking about earlier in part of our discussions, you are mentioning the need for government to allocate lands. Like we can have them allocated lands, we can have a lot of these issues, or maybe hurdles and clashes.
So that we can resolve them.
With what is happening in Plateau State, how do you think is the best way to go about resolving the issue?
Okay, I think the first thing is to address ourselves, to first understand that we are brothers. There's a part of the first national anthem. By the way, maybe sentimentally, I always prefer the first Nigerian national anthem to the second one. There's a part that says, though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And I tell you that some of us, I had my primary school in Kaduna, for example. I was born in Lagos. I started primary school, but the following year I had to continue in Kaduna. And then after my primary school, I went to Jos for my high school. And all through my training, especially in Jos, I never asked another classmate what part of Nigeria he's coming from.
No sentiment,
I never knew. It was in 2015 when we wanted to mark 40 years of graduation that we met here in Abuja for our reunion. And then we just said, for formality's sake, let's reintroduce ourselves. Then somebody mentioned her name and said she was from Ekiti State. And I said, you? From Ekiti State? Another person said, from Oyo State. I said, you? We didn't know. We were all brothers. So we must first know that we are brothers and forgive ourselves. The second thing is that although we are brothers, we have to work. We have to survive. So how does your work impact mine? Or how does it affect mine? This is where we have to start establishing boundaries to freedom. There's no absolute freedom. Like my teacher will say, you can swing your hand because you have freedom, but your freedom stops at the beginning of my nose. So there is need to now go scientific. We're in the 21st century. So there are hardly other nations that move cattle around. So we must begin to establish ranches. But when we say we want ranches, we should not forget we also consume land. And those ranches will need feeds, which will come from agric land. So it's a thing that we must think well and think through. But that we will not get there, we are joking. We must establish ranches, which is even better for the cattle.
All right. I'm glad one of the things you gave our president was the fact that you gave him credit where he said recognize that the government is no longer trial by error. I mean, when you cannot perform, you should be fired and let somebody replace you. But the way we are going right now, could there be better ways to manage things?
You know that things are not exactly the way you see them outside. Exactly. When you get to government, someone said talk is cheap. When you are truly confronted with facts, by the time the president was announcing that subsidy was gone, he was not yet in office. He was just being sworn in. I'm sure by the time he took over and he was confronted with some facts, he will know that, okay, this is the real issue. So I must say that it all depends on what you have on the table. So the president has more information than me. If I'm talking about Minister for Housing and I want to complain, I should remember that he has more information than me. And it is based on that information. But like I said, whatever information you have, you must consult. You know, so the issue is consultation and trying to find out the best option. The best option will not satisfy everybody, but it's important to satisfy the majority of the people and to be seen that you are transparent in taking those decisions.
Now look at that. Before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sworn in as a president, ordinary Nigerian, although those years were also harsh, but at least you could see people eating twice, 3 times in a day, could also be able to pay for transport, go anywhere, visit their family ones and everything. Now, with the removal of fuel subsidy, most of these Nigerians cannot even afford something to eat, so they cannot even manage a credit to call somebody to say it's better when you use that money to save it and eat. Now, when you look at it, if you look at the whole thing with the issues and everything that's in front of Mr. President, which made him to believe that removing the fuel subsidy could have been better. Now, we need peace in the country. And for people to be at peace, they want to eat. Now, could you say, as a Nigerian, that if it could be a better option, if Mr. President can say, let's bring back the policy of subsidy removal pending 1 week. Well, because Nigerians, that's the thought of Nigerians. When it gets hard, they feel like, let me get back to a place where I can eat. Could this be possible? A way out for him?
I think the matter is not as simplistic as
it is.
The harm done to us with the subsidy is worse off than we're experiencing. You know, we will eventually have gotten there. We probably would have been worse than this because we were just postponing the days of evil. You know, so I would just think that the government should introduce as much palliative as possible, especially reaching the most downtrodden people. So that way things will begin to get better. And you know, maybe in Nigeria we also need to learn the art of prioritizing things. Because many times we don't prioritize. When you see some people do some things, you'll be wondering where they got the money from. And it's just because they're not putting their priorities right. So, you know, a lot of people even overeat.
Exactly.
So, whereas in some civilizations, rather than overeat, you will actually donate part of that thing. So there are a lot of measures that can be done.
Look at it. We are seeing that a lot of people, the level of inflation we are in when it comes to, we talked about housing affordability and all. Now, the properties to get the materials to get in order to build this house at a cheaper price that the ordinary Nigerians that cannot afford it, one is not now longer possible. Now, the inflation where we are going and everything, would you see in any way some interventions that can be done, whether to reduce down the materials for these buildings so that we can be able to have access to affordable housing?
It's difficult to reduce what you don't produce. Because if we have to import aluminium.
Yes, we seem to have Dangote producing cement, Bois, and all of that.
But the cement has increased in price.
Definitely, of course.
So we have cost of production that is increasing because we don't have sufficient energy. So no one is in business to lose.
Exactly.
So to sell his product, he factors in everything. So what we can do is to work on the materials we use. Now, our buildings are very expensive. Buildings in Nigeria are very expensive. You know why? We use cement block.
Okay, all right.
We use cement, we use sand, we use aggregate. In US, they will use wood, planks.
Yes, exactly.
And before you know it, they're there. They don't install burglar proofs. We install burglar proof. Why? Security. If we can solve security, that quantum, which is part of a construction, will remove it. It's a gain, you know. So we have a lot of things that make our buildings expensive. So, but there has to be enough research by the NBRRI, I think Nigerian Building and Roads Research Institute, you know. So, and Nigerians too must be willing to use those things, because there are times that we're just stuck to some materials. We don't want to use it. There are people who have tried clay, mud, to stabilized mud, and use it. It brings down the cost. Then I think we must also look at building en masse rather than individual building. That will bring down the cost. And then we industrialize our building. We should be able to have industries producing just door locks, industries producing doors, industries producing windows, so that you can go to the market. In the US, you can go to Home Depot. If your door is bad, you go to Home Depot, just buy a door and go and you replace it. You don't have things like that.
So now, the way some of the major producers of cement building materials, we seems to have Bois and Dangote cement. These are some of the things we're talking about. And you mentioned these are private people. So when they do their business, they need to factor in where they can profit and all of that. How would you advise government in order to provide? Should they bring more producers, industries that can be able to cater for Nigerians, so that we can have reduced in this kind
Well,
of
this borders on economics, which is not my field, but elementary economics teaches us that where demand is more than supply, prices rise up.
Exactly.
So maybe there is need to relax laws that makes investments in those areas possible. Maybe there is need to give tax incentives to those businessmen, so that they can lessen the cost of the materials. But these are governance issues, which I believe that economists should be able to work on and advise government.
All right, thank you so much. Now, I think at the course of our conversation, you talk about the need for like robust sensitization and all of that. And the housing sector really seems to have, I hear most of these establishments where private establishment provide. What do you make of a station like Housing TV Africa, for instance? I mean, could you see them making a difference, let's say, in terms of providing the needed information in housing sector, because housing is the key?
Yes. By the way, Housing TV Africa is about the best thing that has happened to Nigeria and possibly to Africa. And the more the station functions, the better it is, because it's about information. You know, they say if you break that word, information, if you break it into two, it's information. That says you are formed from inside. So when people get information, they get formed. Their ideas change and things like that. So the more information on housing that can be disseminated by this station, the better this nation would be for it. Because if the antecedents of the promoter is anything to go by, you will know that he's out for excellence. So I believe that the housing industry, through the input of Housing TV Africa, will get better.
All right. So for now, we can take it as an endorsement.
Yes, I'll just say, watch Housing TV Africa for life.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ifeal Tonyi Aide. Thank you, former president, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the program.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Right. Well, viewers, there you have it. The conversation has been on where we talk on a lot of issues, whether it is on land, whether it is on economics, whether it is on sensitization, so as we can see how this country can get better. And we hope some of the critical things we were able to talk about can reach to those in power to be able to effect it. My name is Abdurrahman Omar, saying thank you so much for staying with us from the beginning to the end of the program, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
The Africa International Housing Show, AIHS, is the #1 event for the housing and construction industry in Africa. Attending AIHS is the right move. Provides you with a business solution. Meet that potential buyer for your products. Meet a strong investor that will take your business to the next level. AIHS focuses on every aspect of the built industry and market and bring an entire industry together. There is no better place to gain an overview of the industry and to take a deep dive into the industry with exhibitors you talk to, product demos you experience, education sessions you sit on, and everyone you meet during AIHS. Check out your competitors. AIHS is the perfect window to see what your competitors is doing. This gives you the opportunity to find out what is working for them, so you can leverage this information to make educated business decisions about your own products, service, or business. Face-to-face interactions are priceless. The Housing and Construction Show gives you the opportunity to sit down face-to-face with prospects to convert them to customers. You will be interviewed at the venue to talk about your goods and services. AIHS is the best place to be, the first to discover upcoming trends, new products and services, and everything that is happening or about to happen in the industry. To learn more, visit our website www.africahousingshow.com.
Affordability. No matter what your pay grade is, living comfortably and within your means should be your first concern. Crime rates and statistics. No one wants to live in a high crime area, but that doesn't mean that everyone can live in a utopian city where crime never happens. By researching the crime rates and statistics for various areas, you can learn more about the safety of a town or neighborhood. Education system. A good education is essential to setting up children to better handle the rest of their lives, so the importance of good schools cannot be overstated. Parents choose a town where to live because of the proximity to good schools that the children can attend. Commute time and public transportation options. The explosive growth of the suburbs surrounding metropolitan areas have made commuting times in many areas unbearable. The length of time it takes to get to work can be a determining factor in the decision to move to a new locale.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Hello, we are right here at Abuja 30 Village, popularly known as 1000 Units. We are here to really see how the people here are surviving. We believe, when you're coming in, you will not even know that people are living here, but we're about to listen to them to know what they are going through, how they're able to survive in a place like this. Join me as we enjoy this journey.
Taking a tour of Abuja, little will you know that there's a place called Abuja 30 Village, a small resettlement properly documented under Amak local government area. It was initiated by former FCT Minister Nasir El-Rufai in 2006. Today we delve into the stories of those residents, exploring both the positives and the challenges they face. We spoke with Mrs. Juliana, a tailor deeply affected by the prevalent issues in the community.
I've stayed in this community, Peggy community, Abuja 30, for the past close to 10 years, since 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So the insecurity here, seriously, we need government to do something about it, because I can't go out to Kuje town and come back around 7 without fear. So everything is not going nowhere, and you can see our road. Our road is very bad. The development, like I'm a fashion designer, and you can see the way my shop is. And because of the structure of the shop, people don't come to patronize. They feel a shop like this don't have good things in it. And because I sew, they look down on me, simply because of the structure of the shop. So we need government to do something about it. We can't just go out to Kuje. And one, I can't go to Kuje and get shop. If I'm coming back, the insecurity, it won't be safe for me. So our children are in school and we are living in fear. So once our children go to school, which time will they close because of all this insecurity, all this kind? The vigilantes are here, but quite okay. Many things are happening. There are things happening that they are hiding it. So we just need government to do something about it for us. We do have, but things are happening and they won't say. Things are really happening, but they won't speak out. They always cover it up. We are living in fear, honestly. We are living in fear.
Community Association Chairman Mr. Taiwo Aderiwe shares his historical background of Abuja 30 Village and sheds light on the challenges faced by the community.
Peggy Estate Community Development Association is registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission in the year 2012 by my predecessors, the elders of the community. The resettlement is a creation of the Federal Capital Administration under the tenure of His Excellency Malam Ahmed Nasir El-Rufai, when the inhabitants of Idugwagwa Karimu our late Piwe and Apo were resettled to this community. By the way, the growing population of the community is between 17 to 18,000. The demography of the community is more of the youthful population between the ages of 14 and 49. However, the community have been living on its own, a country of its own, a state of its own, a local government of its own. When you see the power lines around here before NEPA and PHCN was liquidated and privatized to what we have as the distribution company, transmission company and distribution companies now, the residents took it upon themselves to grade roads to their plots when the Department of Development Control under AMMC of the Federal Capital Territory failed in their responsibility. Skeletal services were being operated here. Residents took it upon themselves when we had just one regional office and area office in Gwagwalada to travel down to Gwagwalada, apply for power to be stepped down and network to each street and so. By the way, the community is divided into 6 zones. Starting from zone A, sub-zone B, we are in C, which is the central, E and D, and Abuja at 30 quarters. Abuja at 30 was conceived then under Malam Nasir El-Rufai in the year 2006 to commemorate the anniversary of Abuja in the year 2006, which was established in year 1976 at 30. And we have the Abuja at 30 village, which you must have, you took note of on your right. That is the housing unit, which is numbering about 479 in room and parlor, as well as 2-bedroom blocks of flats. But it's unfortunate that the 1,000 units is yet to be completed at about almost 20 years down the line. It is a lack of continuity that caused the setback of that project. Abuja Investment Company, an agency under the Federal Capital Territory, is responsible for the development of the markets and the completion of that project. Peggy community, it's strategically located. We are the heartbeat. Kuje, by the way, when you check through your Google map, Kuje is the center of the FCT, the largest in landmass, neighboring the 5 other area councils and estates as well. Nasarawa, to the south of it. It is unfortunate that Peggy, being the heartbeat, it's like an island, has suffered so much neglect from successive governments after Malam Nasir El-Rufai.
Beyond the voices of the residents, we inquired about the state of healthcare in the community.
The healthcare system, there is a health center somewhere down there under the General Hospital in Kuje town. So the healthcare system, the healthcare center functions, normally only that. The community also tries to augment the government effort by engaging in some community projects to develop the health center. But there's a health center catering for the immediate health issues in this area.
Mr. Adamu Emmanuel shares insights into the responsiveness of the local healthcare facility.
Yes, it's effective. There are other private healthcare centers, hospitals, clinics, pharmaceutical outfits that are private, but the government operated health center is the one I'm talking about.
However, the roads seem to pose a significant challenge, as witnessed by this man repairing his tricycle due to damage caused by the unmotorable roads. Mrs. Aminat, a regular viewer of our weekly housing development program, provides further insights into this situation.
Okay, the situation of this place, the challenging we are having here is this road. This road is very badly, in fact, even the rainy season time, nobody can pass through this side. Even a car is finding it difficult to pass, because if we even go to Kuje, example, we go to Kuje, so before we can go to Kuje, in fact, the transport is too high because of this, our road. Then coming back, we didn't find it easy at all. So please, government should look into it for us. We are finding it difficult very well, because even water, this is only community water we have here. No any other one. The one we have before down there, it has spoiled. Nobody came to do it. So it's only this one, and it's all this community. We normally pay money so that it will not go, it will not spoil. So please, we need water, we need road. We need road. The road is too bad for us.
Mrs. Amina told us more about the community's improper waste management system.
Honestly, you see those bins, because no any place we can throw waste bin, and the deep inside there, people, people, they will not go to the inside and drop waste bin. They will just drop it around the road. So it's not hygienic, but no, you cannot talk to many people just like that. They will just come. Some people will be on the car and throw it on the road. That is it.
Thank you.
Another resident, Mrs. Joy, echoes the sentiments of many, expressing concerns about basic communities not functioning as they should.
The major issue we are having here, number one, is insecurity. So almost all the time, all these herdsmen, because you can see we are being surrounded by hills. So they are not taking the advantage of the hills, to adopt people. At times, if you say, let us be coming in time, because of at times they will be on the road, they will not be coming house to house, which is unbearable. So there's one family like that. They adopted their ladies, their girls. So and they now discover that the ransom amount they say they should pay, that they don't have it, and they are now going house to house to pick money. So by the time they discovered it, that they are begging, they say, okay, you people are begging, you don't even have the money, which means, I don't know whether they thought that we that are located here almost how many years now by Erufai, our house has been demolished for the past, let's say, roughly 18 to 20 years now, and no enough infrastructure, no good road, because even the road, they are taking advantage of the road to attack us. So we are calling to the government to come to our aid and help us.
Infrastructural deficit is what I have on here. Yes, we appreciate the government to have modeled this layout for residents to have a better living, away from the slum kind of living. We appreciate that as residents and as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but it's unfortunate that there is no commitment from successive administration. And there are so many ungoverned space. When you look at the topography of these people, are surrounded by hills and rocks. These are the ungoverned space that criminality strive more. Let me also apprise you with information that the only naval barracks, I'm not talking of officers' quarters, naval barracks is located here in Peggy, which has also given prospective estate developers that sense of belongingness and safety to come invest here. When you have a military institution, an Abuja at 30, as well as other proposed institution of government to make life easy and meaningful for the dwellers. But it's a departure from the positives. We in Peggy took it upon ourselves to grade our roads, to drill our borehole, we provide water for ourselves, we pay for the electric poles and the reclaim wires, and pay for the services also. And we've been living quietly, communally, until managing pockets of burglary, which usually happens when residents go to their place of worship, which is also always on a Sunday. But in the year 2018, the surge of criminality and other felons begin to knock at our gates. There are two exits, by the way, we are making use of into the community through the bush paths. We call that the dreaded bush paths to zone A and B, and the one through Abuja at 30 is the 1,000 unit road, which was awarded in the year 2011 with a 9-month completion period. That's the last span, but that has spent over a decade, almost 20 years. The project is yet to hit a kilometer. I say this with all sense of responsibility and dignity as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In year 2018, by the bush parts, precisely on the 4th and 5th of December 2018, the kidnapper struck. 9 persons were kidnapped. 1 was abandoned to die, suffered a very, very, very serious gunshot injury, Mr. Moshood Atonda. Ransom was demanded and paid to secure the release of those 9 persons. It became a wake-up call. In October 7, 2019, there was another kidnapping incident where a civil defense senior officer suffered gunshot injury but died from the complication of that gunshot injury a week after. Some persons were kidnapped, ransom was paid as well. The number this time is sketchy. We had to repose the confidence in residents to speak up when we realized that about 6 persons were kidnapped. 1 managed to escape, 5 paid ransom. Ransom ranged between the sum of 100,000 to millions of naira to secure their release.
Prevalent security issues limit the progress of a community like this, but addressing these security issues is crucial for fostering a resilient and trustworthy community.
We staged a protest on the 9th of October, which was the first of its kind in the FCT, a peaceful protest. When Malam Bello Musa Mohammed was the Honorable Minister, and Ramatu Tijani Aliu was the Honorable Minister of State. It was streamed live by pressmen and became the talk of the town. Leaders of the protests were invited. We turned it down. What are prayers? Construct the road, complete the road you've abandoned for over a decade, then in 2019. We are not asking for too much as citizens, because we cannot afford Maitama, Life Camp, and all the where you refer to as the city centers. Civil servants who have served this country for onward of 20 to 35 years, retired directors and permanent secretaries are residents here who have given their youthful age and productivity to this community, are here languishing penury and underdevelopment. Is this how we give back to our heroes? It's quite unfortunate. After the protests, the Minister of State paid a visit on the 14th of October and made the political statement that the road would continue. Yes, this renew the hope for better days ahead then, but it turned into worst situations, because the contractor not only returned to site, but managed to complete just 1 kilometer you drive through when coming.
To salvage their security issues at night, we inquired about street lights, and this is what she had to say.
That street light, just like that, one day they just came and put either it's like 6 poles and it's solar, and none of them is working now. At the time they mounted it, it was working, but none of them is working now. Even the road, there was a time they graded the road, nothing. So that's just the major problem we are facing. So another one is our crops. When you farm, they will just come and, Fulanis will just come and scatter it. By the time you talk, they will just mess that person off. It's a lot. Can you imagine a lady like that was coming back from lesson? Because of the phone they are dragging from that girl, They have to cut off that girl's arm in order to collect the phone. So we are just begging. They then locate us.
We made a stop at the school in the community, although the school had told us that a lot of structures are already being developed by the government, which connotes a sign of hope.
See the developments ongoing in this particular resettlement known as Peggy Resettlement, or ceremonially known as Abuja 30 Village. See, this place has been in existence since 2006 under the administration of the former FCT Minister, His Excellency Nasir El-Rufai. And you can see all that has been going on in this place. But there's still something. We see our bad roads here. We see our some structures that are abandoned due to insecurity. We are calling on the government to please come to our rescue, to come to the rescue of the people in this residence, and see what they could come up for them. Some people don't have lights, some have water, some don't have water. We believe that the government could come to their rescue. Reporting from Abuja 30 Village, Brown Mike Ebo for Housing TV Africa.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Be a part of the construction revolution as we take you on a voyage of everything building and beyond. The Artisan Show. Join us weekly on a journey into construction excellence, a program brought to you by the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria, COBON, to bring you insights that transcend the ordinary. From promoting stellar construction practices to mobilizing building technologists for national impact, and your gateway to the latest standards and industry best practices. The Artisan Show, where every brick tells a story. Showing weekly on Housing TV Africa.